Imagine a game so powerful that it can stop wars, a game that can unite billions of people who don't share the same language, culture, religion, or even continent. A game watched by more people than the population of most countries. But here's the strange part. Football wasn't supposed to become the world's biggest sport. It began as a simple game played on muddy fields in England. No billion-dollar contracts, no giant stadiums, no global superstars, just a ball and a few players chasing it. So, how did this local pastime become the world's obsession? Why does a child in Brazil dream about it? Why does a teenager in India know the names of clubs thousands of miles away? Why do entire cities come to a standstill when a football match begins? To answer that question, we need to travel back more than 150 years, to a time when football was just one of many games competing for attention, and nobody could have imagined what it would become. In the middle of the 19th century, England was changing rapidly. Factories were rising, cities were growing, and people were searching for ways to spend their free time. At the time, there wasn't one version of football. There were dozens. Every school seemed to have its own rules. Some allowed players to carry the ball with their hands. Others did not. Matches often ended in arguments because nobody agreed on how the game should be played. Then, in 1863, a group of clubs met in London. Their goal seemed simple: create one set of rules. What they didn't realize was that this meeting would help create a sport that would eventually capture the entire planet. Then, football escaped England, not because of a grand plan, not because of advertising, and certainly not because anyone thought it would become a global phenomenon. It spread because the British Empire was everywhere. British sailors carried football to ports across the world. Merchants introduced it to new cities. Workers played it in factories and railways. Students brought it into schools. Wherever the British went, football often followed. Soon, people in South America were playing it, then Europe, then Africa, then Asia. But here's the real mystery. Why football? Why not cricket? Why not rugby? Why didn't those sports become the world's game? The answer was hidden in football's simplicity. To play football, you didn't need expensive equipment. You didn't need special facilities. You didn't even need a proper ball. Children could play in streets, on beaches, in empty lots, in villages, in crowded cities. Rich or poor, almost anyone could play. And because almost anyone could play, almost anyone could fall in love with it. By the early 1900s, football was no longer just England's sport. It belonged to the world. Then came a moment that changed everything: the World Cup. When the first World Cup was held in 1930, nobody knew what it would become. Only 13 teams participated. Compared to today's tournaments, it was tiny, but the idea was revolutionary. For the first time, nations could compete against one another on a global stage, not through politics, not through war, but through football, and people loved it. Every tournament created heroes. Every tournament created heartbreak. Every tournament created stories that would be passed down for generations. The World Cup transformed football from a sport into a shared global experience. But football's rise wasn't only about tournaments. Technology played a huge role. First came radio. Suddenly, fans could follow matches without being there. Then television arrived. Now millions could watch from their homes. And when satellite broadcasting connected continents, football exploded. A child in India could watch a club in England. A family in Africa could cheer for a team in Spain. A teenager in Asia could become a fan of players they had never seen in person. For the first time in history, football had no borders. Yet there is one country where football never became number one: the United States. While most of the world embraced football, Americans chose different sports: baseball, American football, basketball. This created a fascinating contrast, and that contrast only made football's global dominance even more remarkable. Today, football is played in nearly every corner of the planet, from the largest stadiums on Earth to dusty fields in remote villages. The game remains fundamentally the same: 22 players, one ball, one goal. And perhaps that is the secret. Football became the world's game not because it was the richest sport, not because it was the most complex, but because it was the most accessible. A game simple enough for anyone to play, yet powerful enough to inspire billions. And that is why football became the world's game. If you've ever celebrated a goal, cried after a defeat, or felt your heart race before a match, then you've been part of this story too. Because football isn't just a game, it's one of the few things left that can make the entire world feel connected. And that's what makes it truly special.